So welcome again to this online seminar. Today's online seminar will focus on teaching and learning in the time of COVID-19, strategies for inclusivity and diversity. And I'm very happy because today we have a unique expert, Tania Diaz-Fonseca from Kingston University in London. So before we start and before I present Tania, I would like please to remind you some netiquette rules. So first of all, please keep the chat for questions only. What does it mean? That it's great that you post hello and how are you? This is excellent, but we already 6 minutes on schedule, so you already said hello to everyone, and from now on, please let's keep the chat for questions and comments related to the topic only. Please do not use capital letters in the chat, and please respect your peers and the experts, and if you have any comments, please let it be related to the topic in a nice and respectful way. Okay, so I would like to introduce our expert today, Tania Diaz-Fonseca. So Tania is a senior lecturer in learning and teaching at Kingston University and an educational consultant on technologies, inclusion and diversity and active citizenship. And you can see Tania now, she joined with her video. Before joining the Kingston University, Tania coordinated the design and development of an online educational resource platform for teachers and students. And you can see here the link, which you can check after this online seminar, and we'll also post this link in our notes. She also designed and delivered continuous professional development for secondary school teachers, and between 2002 and 2016, Tania was also a physics and chemistry secondary teacher in Portugal. Her research interests lie on the intersection between education, technologies, teaching, training, and social justice. And Tania's focus throughout her career has been on educational decision-making process and how educational institutions foster young people's empowerment to participate in decision-making on social, scientific, and political issues. So we're very happy to have you, Tania, on board with us. And without any further delay, I will pass the microphone to you.
Thank you, Alex. Can you hear me? Yes, I will assume that everybody can hear me. I would like first to welcome everyone. I'm very happy that you managed to have some time to come and listen to me talking about some of these things related to technology and inclusivity. I would like to say thank you to Alexandra for organizing and for all the support that you provided to me. Thank you. But I'm only here because Anabela Tristão Santos from eTwinning program in Azores participated in a webinar that I delivered some weeks ago, and she thought it was a good idea to share some of the things with this community, and Laura Flip made this possible. So thank you all. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about some key principles on inclusion and diversity, universal design for learning, and how do we go from face-to-face to online learning, especially because some of you, or significant parts of you, I assume, they were in a lockdown, so prevented from teaching face-to-face, and saw yourselves in a new situation of being at home, trying to teach, but at the same time trying still to be a human being and a mother, a father, and all of those things at the same time. So it's not easy, and I'm very aware of that. So we'll look at some challenges going from face-to-face to online, and some suggestions, so some tips and suggestions. Some of the things that I will be talking today you can apply to face-to-face, or you can apply to online. So there are principles that we should use and have in mind when we teach students. So the first thing that I would like to know is how are you today? How do you how are you feeling? And if there's a poll coming, I'm assuming. If not, it's coming. Thank you.
Yes, here it is.
So please tell me, let me know how are you feeling today?
And please, for your comments, how you feel today, please click on the poll. That's the idea of the poll. So you don't need to write in the chat. The idea is that you click on the poll and then we see all of your results. So there is no need to write on the chat. That's why we have the poll.
Okay, so I can see, I'm happy to see that most of you are are good. Some of you've been better, and there's some of you that would prefer that I would not ask. So I can only imagine. Should we wait just a little bit more? Okay. Okay, I can see. Some people are experiencing some audio problems. It could be either your volume or your audio settings, or it could also be your internet connection. So I hope that you manage to hear.
Shall I end the poll, Tanya?
Okay. Yes. So should we broadcast the results? Are already being broadcast? Okay, thank you.
Yep, they already broadcasted, right?
So we have, yes, thank you, Alex. So there's a percentage that have been better, and there are some people that are not. They prefer not to answer or not to be asked. And what I assume is that you've sometimes, or the last weeks, you've been
Just a
feeling
second.
overwhelmed with all these
I'm
changes
trying
and
to.
everything that. Oh,
Is it
sorry.
still visible to you?
No, 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 no. May I keep going? Yes, I will assume yes. So I hope you can see the slides, and there's some the image on the slides are some parents helping their children and working at the same time. And there's an image as well that is someone trying to feed a baby, clean the house, respond to emails, going to Microsoft Teams, and so far and so forward. So this is how some of you, and I believe a really big percentage of you are feeling right now with all these things that you need to do for your work, to teach, but also to support your family, which is not easy at all. Um, and the thing is, we are not in a normal situation right now because of COVID-19. And we've seen our lives changed, and we are still adjusting. So, one of the things that I would like to say is thank you to all teachers for all the hard work and all your courage to, to move and to make this possible, this last month possible for your students. And I know it's not easy. So please accept my dear, my sincere thank you. And also, you need to take into account that you should take care of yourself. This means that you're working from home, you're dealing with a lot of things, so you will have to have breaks. Okay, so do some breaks. Don't go from 7 o'clock in the morning to 7 o'clock in the afternoon in front of your computer. This is not healthy. So you should have a schedule, you should have a plan on the hours that you're going to be working. You have to arrange time to support your children if that's your case, or to support people that are living with you and needs more attention and need your support. So please do make that time for yourself, and um, organize as much as you can uh, your day in a way that you have breaks. So having said that, let's go and go to the question that I'm bringing here today. It's why do we need to consider inclusion and diversity? And if we don't think about technologies, if we think about a normal face-to-face classroom, we have students that come from different backgrounds. They come from different social class, they come from different cultural backgrounds, they come from different educational systems and educational pathways, even. And they have different personalities. So it means that when we teach a class, let's say with 20 students, they are not all equal, they don't learn the same way, and they don't have the same interests, even if they are all neighbors, let's say. So it's quite important that we take into account that each of our students is an individual and they have different learning needs and they learn differently. Some students are more visual, some students are more auditorial, some students need to write everything, some students just need to read. And there are other students even that they will need further support technologies to be able to listen or to see. And we should do as much as we can in our classrooms to adjust the way that we teach, the things that we provide, even the classroom environment, the settings, as much as we can to address and respond to those needs. When I was preparing these slides, I was looking for images to bring diversity and diverse images on that were related to schools. Although we all know that schools are quite diverse, when we go and look for images, it was a little bit harder for me, but I managed to find some. And I was trying to look for images that would bring not only the difference on the skin color or religious or gender, but also on body abilities. And those were the ones that I managed to find that would actually bring diversity into my images. And this is an effort that I do I'm very aware of this effort. So every time that I teach at university and I'm preparing my slides, one of the things that I do is to present images of different students or different people around the world. So what I try to avoid is using only images, for example, with only white people, or using images only with men or only with women or only Western, so or only completely body fitted. So the idea is that with the images that I bring, that I choose to put on my slides, I'm already sending a message to my students. I'm already telling them that I do embrace diversity, and my space, my teaching, and my class, it's a place where they can feel welcome. Okay? So with a very simple thing such as image that I present. Because what research shows is that every time that we do not recognize and we do not acknowledge and celebrate minority groups. It doesn't matter if it's ethnical, if it's disabled students, if it's LGBT, if it's, for example, female students in science or male students in midwifery, for example. Those students, they feel that they are part of a minority, and this then makes them feel fear. So the first one of the things that they do is they feel fear of not being liked as for what they are, for what they represent, for their physical appearance. If they are disabled, they will feel, some of them will feel that they are not welcomed because all the the infrastructure is closing the doors to them. For example, if a school only has stairs, the message that we are passing is that a student with a willing chair, they can't go. So it's not expected them to come. So different students will experience different kinds of fears. And they also feel sometimes external threats. And this might be in microaggressions. So it could be simple things that we say or the colleagues say that even if it's not directly at them, but some jokes that we do or some comments that we do, they experience as a microaggression. There's also, of course, every time that we do a stereotype, when we stereotype students or we stereotype communities, those students from minority groups, even if they are not from that minority group, what they will feel is that somehow we are not respecting and celebrating the difference. So what do they do? Some of them, to avoid the conflict and to avoid dealing with these different norms, they will just be passive in our classrooms. They will not talk, they will not participate, and we will think sometimes because they are not talking, they are not participating, that they don't know, that they are less capable, which in fact might not be true, or probably it's not true. But because everything that we do, we are not talking to them, they are not being reflected or celebrated, they just don't feel the need or the will or the space to participate. So this leads to a sense of invisibility. It's like if they don't exist, okay? Because sometimes when what we teach and how we teach, we don't present examples that will talk to them. A good example for this. If we study science, I'm from physics and chemistry, so it's easier for me to provide examples in science. It could be science, could be maths. If you have only male teachers, or the majority of the teachers are male, and you're a female student, and all the scientists that we provide as an example are male, I could find as a student, as a female student, that I could never be a scientist because there's no role models. I remember when I was studying physics at university a long, long time ago in the 90s, I was one of 15 female students within a group of 175 students. So we were a really, really, really small group of females studying physics. And although the majority of our lecturers, our professors welcomed us and our colleagues would treat us somehow equally, I had a professor that every time that he was teaching something, he would say, "This is so easy that even women can do it." And there was one day, of course, that what we did was the female in the room, we just left the room. We just, left the session and then we had a conversation with that professor. But this only happened because the females in that group, they had the personality to do it. So what happens normally is that students, they don't feel confident in doing that, in participating and telling, maybe, you should provide other examples or we should, I'm experiencing some technical problems here. I do apologize for that. Something is happening with my computer, which I don't know what it is. If you
We
can
can
hear
hear
me
you very
still.
well,
Yes,
Tanya.
I'm back.
Yep.
Okay, okay. Um,
Yes, yes, we can hear you
so
very well.
what I'm trying to say here, okay, thank you, thank you. What I'm trying to say is that for all the examples that we provide and the comments that we do, our students experience that and they feel either welcomed or they feel ignored or invisible. You have to give me just a second. I'm back. So, and in order to do that, we need to think about our practices and about the things that we do and teach. So let's go and think about that. As you may know, I presented here for EU because eTwinning is a European uh, project, but in different countries there will be different drivers for inclusion and diversity. In European Union, one of the main reason is to eliminate discrimination, harassment and victimization. And this is with this lens that we can actually advance on equality of opportunities and we can foster good relations and social change. So the idea that we should celebrate the difference instead of ignoring them. And these differences could be physical abilities, it could be age, it could be different skills, experience, cultural differences, perspectives, and religion. And one of the reasons to do this is because more and more and more students they go to school, then some of them will go to the university, and then eventually they go to the workplace. And workplaces are more and more a global workplace. So this means that you might study and live so throughout your teenagehood and while growing up, for example, you lived in Turkey, then you went to work somewhere else. For example, in France. And this means that because you have to leave your country to go to another country, you need to adjust to that. You need to adjust to a different culture, you need to adjust to different habits, and moving from one place to the other comes with a lot of adjustments and demands. So it means that each of us, every time that we go from a safe place that we know the culture, we know how people act, how people react, and we go to a new one, you know, you might feel stressed and we need to learn a different language. Sometimes we need to develop different skills. So the idea of thinking about inclusion and diversity in schools, it's also to prepare students to work in a global market and at the same time to allow them to, to develop the skills to work and learn with different people from different places. So it's not only for a short time perspective, but also in a long term perspective. I'm bringing here an image that you probably already seen on the internet. Um and the thing is, what do we mean by inclusion in education? If we think about inclusion in other services, we might think, for example, if it's to go to the hospital, all hospitals should have a ramp, let's say, because everybody needs to go to the hospital. So we need to provide ramps for and stairs for people that are able to go to stairs. They can use stairs, but if we um, can't go by stairs, we can have a ramp. So what do you mean? What do you think we can mean by inclusion in education? And you can please use the chat to express your points. It could be just words, whatever you want to share. And I'm from Portugal, someone is asking, but I do live in the UK. So I also have the experience of moving from one country to another country, and I had the need to adjust to a different culture and different ways of working and even different students that are because it's a country you, in higher education in the UK, it's a very internalized international setting. So we have here some comments. Uh, justice rather than equality. Interesting. We have any others? Equality between all. Yes. We will discuss some of these points. I don't think there's a wrong or a correct answer for this. It's just the way that we approach and see things. So we will be discussing some of these points, which I have here: equality, tools for everyone, justice, and equality, equal rights, opportunity to reach the place at their own pace and with the freedom of express themselves and develop their gifts. That's a beautiful definition. Same opportunities to all, not the same tools, but personalized approach. Yes, so we have here some of the things is about equality, right? And this image that I'm presenting here, so on the left side, we have equality. So at the beginning, the three of them have a box, right? That's equality. So the three of them have the same tools. But as you can see, they don't see the same thing. They don't have access to the same thing. And we, on the right side, what we have, it's what we call equity, right? So not everyone has the same thing. While one has a ramp, the other has two boxes. And the first one, the red shirt, doesn't have any box because I will assume it's a he, stereotyping here, because he's already tall enough to see. So that's equity, okay? So this image represents the difference between equality and equity. Because if we think about equality, it means that we are providing the same thing for everyone. But because people are different, they have different learning needs, providing the same tools will not help everybody the same way. So it means that some groups will be put in advantage and some groups of students will be put in a disadvantaged place. Even if they don't have any physical disability, what happens is, for example, if my parents, they are migrants and they speak a different language from the school where I'm going, where I'm attending. So it means that as a child, as a student, I will speak two languages, one language at home and one language at school. And if I'm recent to a new country, it will mean that I don't know yet the social norms and I don't know yet even the right words to express myself. So I will be in disadvantage if I, in terms of if I compare myself with students that are from there. At the same time, if I think if now in a different example, my parents are both they both study, they went to higher education, and they have there's a lot of books in my house when I go to school. The language that my teachers talk, it's a similar language, similar words, similar vocabulary that my teachers use, that my parents use at home. So I can learn things differently and easier. It's going to be easier for me. But if I live in a household, in a family where none of my parents went to higher education and they don't have time to or money to buy books, it means that I don't have access to the same resources at home that my colleagues that have. So it means that providing the same things at school, equal things, will not break the, the problems with inequality. So we need to go a little bit further than that. We need to adjust our tools and the things that we provide according to the needs of different students. This could be, even if we think it's not only about students that are in disadvantage, socially disadvantaged, or other or physically disadvantaged. We can also think about those students uh, that are really, really into education or into study, and they are so interested, and we can see that they want more and more and more. If we provide them exactly what we provide to the others, that student is not going to be able to over to go a little bit further. So it's this thing, we need to adjust to the students that we have. It's not thinking that some students are in a deficit in relation to others. Okay, because every time that we think and we have in our minds that it's a deficit module, what we are doing is just trying to overcome that deficit. So what we need to think is, this student is not in deficit of anything. Okay, it's not missing anything. What is missing is my classroom is may be missing on opportunities for that student to flourish and that student to be celebrated. So those are things that we have to take into account when we think about inclusion. Um, and what can we do to be inclusive in our teaching online and face to face? Because I think some of the things that I will be talking about can serve both perspectives. We can we are going to talk about teaching and learning strategies, educational resources, and learning relationships. And the learning relationships part of it is between school, teachers, the parents, and the students. So the wider community. So it doesn't stop in our classroom. It goes beyond that. Okay. So how do we um put in practice, cooperation, the being friendly, being positive, but at the same time being honest with our students and being happy that they are in our classroom. Okay, because sometimes what happens is that students, especially um, younger ones, they feel when the teacher is not being genuine. They almost smell it, so if when we are teaching something and we don't really trust that, or we don't really believe in what we are teaching, students will feel it. They have this sense, this intuition, and they actually, almost, I always say that they can smell that. One of the things that I do in my work is to train future teachers. So I work in teachers education, and I always say this: uh, what you experience in your classroom, your students will feel it as well. So it's quite important to know that the dynamic in the classroom, even if it's face to face or online, depends not only on the students but also on our own attitudes. So in terms of teaching and learning strategies, first of all is to enable students to see themselves reflected in the curriculum. So they should be able to see themselves in what we teach. We should also think about how can we promote and foster skills development that will allow them to deal with ambiguity, to deal with different situations, with tricky situations where people don't think like they don't look like they do, and they still are able to learn in that environment and contribute to that environment. Because we more and more we live in a globalized world and a globalized society. We should always diversify our learning and teaching strategies, diversify the way that we assess, and and provide feedback for learning. Let's explore some of these. So how can we then make our students see themselves reflected in the curriculum? It's as easy as use real world examples. Okay, provide examples to your students that are contextualized, that are real, that things that they see through the television, on the news, online, on Facebook, whatever it is, but bring the reality to the classroom. Don't be afraid of, making the links between what you're teaching and what is happening. Because what research shows is that students feel that there's a, um, a fragmentation, a detachment between what they learn in the classroom and what is surrounding them, okay, in their communities, in their neighborhoods. So you need to make that link, because everything that we teach in different disciplines, in all different disciplines, subjects, they are a way to express, a way to explore, and a way to understand the world that we live in. So try to make those connections. Bring also examples from different cultures represented in your classroom. Use examples from different countries if you have students that are, their families or they are from different countries. Bring those examples. Try to do some research, and if you know that there's again in science a scientist from a specific country that did something related to what you're teaching, bring that. I always tell my STEM students that will become teachers that they should use examples that are not only from Europe or from North America. And in science, you have a huge hub of science in India, you have in China, you have in South America. So diversify the examples that you bring. Okay? Don't stick only to the ones that you've learned or the ones that you're comfortable with. And I know sometimes it's difficult and tricky to, to go and see, well, I don't know what is happening in China, so how can I use an example from China? But try slowly, at your own pace also to explore different examples. Make sure that you have space, that you make space for different voices to be heard. So one of the tricky things is sometimes you have those dominant students, and those students that are very confident, they talk during the sessions, they will stay after the class, they will go after you in the corridor, they will knock at the teacher's room. Those are the ones that are confident. But we have to bear in mind that some of our students, they don't feel confident at all. They are very self-aware, very self-conscious. Some of them might have the school language as their second language. Some of them might be shy. And we need to make sure that those students also have a way to participate and to engage. And to do this, we can use, as I explained before, images in terms of gender, ethnicity, and bodies. So bring all that diversity to your examples. Allow your students to share their own experience in your class. So if you're studying literature or your own language, you're teaching the language of that country, allow them to express themselves, to bring, stories from their grandfathers, their grandparents, their mothers, their fathers, things that are happening in their neighborhoods. Allow them to bring the music that they are listening to that might be different from yours, because you're older than them, because you have different tastes. So allow them to bring things. You have to make sure, because we do all learn differently. And this is so, how can I explain? I know everybody knows that everybody learns differently. What we tend is to ignore the fact that people learn differently. And every time that we ignore this and we present everything with a slide, like I'm doing here, only written, it means that I'm talking to those students that like to read. If I use only videos, I'm talking to the students that need images. If I'm using only audio, it's for those that are going to listen. So the idea is that you should mix these things, bring different means of engagement, okay? So to allow your students to explore different avenues, and you'll be tackling different students. Allow them also to co-create their learning process. This means give some space in your in your program for them to present a topic that they would like to explore, a project that they would like to do. So try to do this. Don't even if it doesn't have to be the entire term or the entire curriculum, but allow some space for them to bring their own choices and develop their own autonomy. And of course, use different technologies to allow students. And when we talk about technology and going from face to face to online environments, we need to follow some principles. And one of them is simplicity. Less is more, especially because you're not teaching online mode. Okay? Your students are on a face to face environment and they were forced to go to online environments. Okay? Be inclusive. You should always try to do asynchronously and realistical goals. So this means asynchronous is you prepare something that students can see, watch, engage at their own pace. Okay? Be realistic. So don't try to give them everything like two screencasts, two text to read, and two uh, um, quizzes. It's too much. So be realistic. What can they do? And make sure that whatever you provide them to do, you know roughly how long they need to take that. Okay, how long do will they need to have? How much time they need to have to answer your questions, to engage with your materials. Be consistent with your communication. Okay, this way we will try to have a balance between the cognitive presence, so the amount of work that you ask them to do, your social presence. They have social presence, so students with students, students with lecture, and also your presence. Okay, really important is for you to avoid being isolated. So talk with your colleagues, share things with your colleagues, okay? Collaborate. Don't close yourself in a silos, because more and more, and technology actually allows that, ask things, search for help. And uh, one of the things for communication is to be very explicit. Every time that you ask for students to do, be explicit, especially if it's online in an online environment, because you're not going to be there with your students to clarify. You're not going to be there to see their faces doing like this. I don't know. I don't know. You're not going to be able to read their expression. So use action verbs. Okay. Examine, outline, point out, predict, match, list, design, produce. Tell them exactly what you want them to do. Okay, very clear. Also, uh, try to balance, uh, to try to find a good balance between when they have to read things and when they have to analyze things, okay, or comprehend, so and apply. So try to organize your learning pathway, so the logic of your materials in a way that they that it flows and it's logic for them. Okay. Uh, is there any question that you want to know? Okay, so I'll keep on going. Also, when you're providing feedback, uh, when you're providing feedback to students, it could be either after a test or an assignment, but it could be also in the classroom or online when they send you some materials. We need to be explicit on the things that they they are good, you know, the strengths, the things that still need to be improved, and the way they have to move forward. So tell always your students, find always a positive thing from what they've done. Okay, always a positive thing. And there's always a positive thing. Okay, doesn't have to be brilliant, but you always can find a positive thing from your students' work. Second, identify clearly what needs to be improved. Avoid saying this is wrong or you did it wrong, because students then feel that they failed. And when children and young people feel that they fail, this has an impact on their confidence. So it's quite, and self esteem. So it's quite important to say, this could be improved by, or this could be, this would benefit from. Try to phrase in a way that, although it's not correct, they will see that it's not correct. They know that there's still space to get to make it better. And finally, tell them exactly how and what they have to do. So if they need to read more, tell them that they need to read more. If they need to practice something more, tell them what they need to practice. Okay? This image here, it's a very common thing that happens in feedback. So you say it's called the sandwich feedback. You say something very positive, then you say something negative, and you finish with something positive. But nobody really likes to receive feedback, right? Even if if someone would tell me that, oh, my head is nice, but my face is ugly, but my top is nice, I will I would just fix my face is ugly. I will not hear that my hat was nice or my shirt was nice. I would just focus on how ugly my face was. So it's quite important that when we provide feedback to our students, we do it in a way that they can engage with it and they can work on it. Okay, they can act on it. Other examples of common feedback practice is it's wrong, it's the bad dog. Well, I need to know a little bit more why it's wrong. Okay. And if it's online, this is a very common thing is we provide feedback making comments. But the thing is, if I'm a student and I see a lot of question marks, it doesn't say anything, you know? I'm not sure what it is as a student. So try to avoid providing feedback to your students, especially in these times that you're going online and you need to communicate with your students online, either through recordings or emails or whatever it is. Try to be explicit. Okay, tell them what they have to do. Don't just say restructure. Well, I don't know if I know how to restructure. I would have done in the first time. Some people say rewrite. Well, if I knew what to do differently, I would have done before. So it's quite important that you tell your students how. It's just supporting them, telling them how to do and what to do. And I was going to ask you now what technologies you normally use in your teaching. Are we going to, if we have a pool? Okay. So the question is, which technologies do you normally use? Let's see if you use them or not. All above? Oh, good. 3 people already said all above. Okay. So I'm very happy that the majority uses uh, videos, PowerPoint simulations, mobile apps, games, etc. There's still a percentage that only uses PowerPoint and videos. So what I will do now is just to explore some of the technologies and things that are very easy to use uh, to allow you then to go. Of course, we can't explore all of them, but I'm going to just present some examples that you can explore afterwards. Okay. Uh, Alex, could we? Thank you. This is synchronous. Okay. So here are some teaching strategies that you can use with technologies. You can have online quizzes. You can have email buddies. So organize your students for to buddy up. You can use discussion forums, crowdsourcing. For example, you can have a Padlet where students can, just put their ideas. You can do a web quest, do some peer-to-peer feedback. So instead of you doing feedback to your students can provide feedback to each other. 1 minute paper, it could be with a Trello, for example, where students can leave a note. and you can do a class wiki. Here, what I did was to group some tools that you can use in case you want to assess your students, especially uh, if you want to make sure that those students that are shy or they are not native speakers can participate, like Mentimeter, Kahoot, Edpuzzle, Slido. If you want to help your students to do some concept mapping, there are Poplet, Simple Minds, Bubble. There are some good examples. If you want to do some games to make this period of teaching while they're at home more fun, you can use some tools, some apps for games. So Class Tools, Kubu, and you're the ones. So what they have is already some templates for games, and some of them it's already the game is there. You just need to fit in with questions and answers, which is quite good. You can also, if you want to be more bold, you can ask your students to create digital stories and share with you. You can do either through Audacity, Blurb, Storyboard, Story Jumper. So these are just examples of tools that you can use for group work. And while your students are at home and you are at home, it's quite easy to use Padlet and Trello, or even Meeting Words, where everybody, all students can contribute to the same document. And they don't have to have an account. You're the one that holds an account and you just share with them the link. So these are some examples that you can explore with your students. One of the things that you need to make sure is when you use these tools, avoid using tools where students have to give their data. So avoid that. What you should do is create your own accounts with these tools and then provide them a link for them to engage with, okay? Because the majority of your students will be minors and we have to protect their data, okay? We have to protect their privacy. Also, if some of you are using a VLE, so a virtual learning environment, like Moodle or Blackboard or any other, some schools they do have, try to organize their learning journey. So, for example, you can see here I have listen, so they know that I have to listen, it's a podcast. Read, they will have to read something, and discuss. There's a discussion board. So try to organize the things for your students instead of sending, even if it's in a Word document, organize the sequence, the things that they have to follow, which steps they have to follow, which activities they should do first that they will inform the next one, okay? And as you can see, I diversified. I have listen, I have read, and I have discuss. So I'm exploring three different things: to listen, to read, and to write, okay? Use screencasts during this time, and because your students are minor, try to use screencasts and not what we are doing a webinar. And I will tell you why. Each of your students, they are in a house with their family, and if they are going to use a webinar, it means that they have to be there at that time. And if there's only one computer, it might be difficult for them. Another thing is they might not have a camera. They might not have headsets. And every time that you're asking them to use their camera, they are sharing their house. And this can be used afterwards against them as cyberbullying. So try to protect your students as much as you can. Avoid asking them to present their face or their family or their, siblings or their parents. Try to avoid that because sometimes children they pick on things that we don't because for us it's normality, and then they might use that against your students. Um, so try to use screencasts. There's some I assume that you will be able to have the slides. So there are some principles on how to use your screencasts. Use discussion forums, and while using discussion forums, try to ask genuine, open-ended questions. Avoid questions yes or no. Okay? Give time for your students to respond. Always, you have to provide time. And ask them with action verbs so they know that the learning is happening. Okay? They know that they are there because they are learning and they have to also respond. use the PowerPoint right now if you have the Office 365. I'm not paid by them. Uh, the thing is, it's so they had the PowerPoint has this magic thing that you can record the message to your students. So you prepare your slides, your normal slides, and you can leave a message. You can record with your face. Another thing is you can actually put subtitles. Okay, so you can have this. You have a um, your PowerPoint. You record your voice over the slide. So you imagine that you're delivering a session, right? You're talking through the slides, and there's some subtitles of the things that you are saying. So this will help anybody with hearing impairments. Another thing is that these screencasts should be short. Okay, don't record anything with more than 10 minutes. Your students will not be able to deal with that. It's too much. Okay, research shows that students, young people, their attention span with videos, it's 5 minutes. So I'm giving you 10 minutes maximum, okay? Because then they will just start thinking about other things and they will do other things. So try to avoid having long videos for them. And as I said, protect your students, avoid using applications that require their authentication. Uh, Make sure that whatever you're using is in line with your school policies. Avoid opening the door for cyberbullying. It's really important. And I would like to, before we go to some questions and answers, I would like to explore this image here. Because I started with the image where there was equality and equity, and now I'm bringing a third image, which is without barriers. So as you can see, there's no stones, but there's no fence as well. So the idea is that when we design, when we prepare our resources, when we prepare the content that we are going to deliver, we should design uh, as much as possible accessible from the beginning. So we should remove and try to remove all the obstacles, all the barriers that we have. Okay? Because if we do that, if we manage to provide a space where students feel at home, where they feel that they can talk, they can ask without feeling, that they are less, that they are stupid, that they don't know, that whatever it is, they will feel that they want to participate, they want to talk with you, they want to ask. Another thing is when we use slides, for example, if the slides are uh, following it's called the Universal Design for Learning, it will be on the resources, the list of resources. Um, if you follow those things, you will see that there are really useful tips on how to create uh, online and for face-to-face as well, resources where we reduce the barriers, okay? So that all students can achieve and can succeed with their own skills, with their own personalities, with all their life experience, their own life knowledge as well, where they can be celebrated. And my final considerations. The first one is plan. It's quite important that when you move from face-to-face to online, that you plan. Online learning and teaching requires much more planning than face-to-face. Okay, much more planning. You need to take into account the tool, you need to take into account the learning outcome, the timings. Okay, so it's much more than going to a classroom where things kind of happen or in an organic way. On face to face, it's less organic. So it means that you need to provide the space for things to happen in a smooth way. Be empathetic to your students. So in this context, the COVID-19, or even when we go back to normality, whatever that will be, make sure that you're able to put yourself in their shoes, to see from their perspective, and make try to avoid making assumptions about what is going on. So it's quite important that we reduce the assumptions that we sometimes tend to do about our students. Maybe they don't speak because there's something going on. Maybe they are not participating because maybe they didn't have breakfast that day. So try to make sure that before you make a decision or judge or assess your student, you make sure that you understand their context. In order for this to work going from online face to face to online, it's quite important that you create a sense of order to your students. So they need to understand that things are flowing, things are going, even if different from before, they have an order. There's a reason for you to ask them to do things. Okay, they need still a way. They still need a structure. Get to know your class, so get to know your students, know who they are, what they like, where they are coming from, what kind of experience they have. Listen to understand. So instead of just listening to respond or to judge, try to listen to understand them, to understand from their perspective. Celebrate all the success, their success, even if it's just a small one, just celebrate that. Avoid exposing your students and accept these circumstances where we are. And this is all for me. Oh, thank you. I tried to do some languages. I don't know the majority of them, but I found this online, so I thought it was good to have and inclusive to have a thank you in different languages. So I hope you can see yours there. If not, I do apologize. I'll I'll try to to do better next time. So do we
Thank
have
you
some
so much, Tanya.
questions?
Yes, there was one question from Sihan Eskin asking, can you elaborate on what to
Mhm.
celebrate success means? So celebrating success with the
Oh, yes,
pupils, what does it mean?
I can. Mhm. So sometimes you have students that they struggle with something specific, and you can see that they are not able to apply something that you taught. And you provided different examples already, and they still find it hard. So celebrating the success in this case would be just celebrating their resilience, that they are still there with you. So they are still trying. And when they manage to actually apply parts of the things that you want them to celebrate that. Okay? So don't, instead of having the attitude of you're not yet there yet, change to you're moving forward. You're getting there. So this is the celebration. Okay? I hope this makes sense. It's just small things for us, they seem like small things. For your students, they might be big. They might be, they might require a lot of effort and a lot of resilience that sometimes they don't have it. So just celebrate small steps instead of waiting or expecting everything to be brilliant. Is there any other question?
Thank you so much, Tanya. Are there, dear ETwinners, do you have any more questions? So while people are typing, I think just to recap, we had, here we have a question. Just a second. We have several questions. So, Helen McFarlane, sorry if I mispronounced the names, guys, is asking, can you please post a link to your presentation as some people could not join? Yes, so Helen, I can already reply to you. The presentation, we will share the link on the TwinSpace and also the recording. So no worries, we'll provide everything and also a document with all the resources. Now, I'm looking if there are any more questions. So I see very good comments, people that are very appreciative, and we have A question from Isabel Trinidade that asks, sometimes some students don't believe in school. They're not motivated. What can be done? So that's an excellent question indeed. How can we motivate these kind of students?
And that's a reality. We all face that reality that students, they come to our classes and they don't think school brings anything, to their lives. They don't see it. The thing is, I, from my research, what I notice is that students that tend to say that they don't want or they don't need school is those students that they are not provided with a setting, a classroom, or materials that talk to them. Sometimes they are very theoretical, very distant from their realities. And if they go to school to learn about maths, but pure maths with no relationship with, you know, with the world, with cars, for example, or with stars, or with the um, how things work, if they don't see those connections, they don't see why they need to learn maths. So one way to motivate those students is to bring examples and to present all the content that we will be teaching embedded in real examples in reality, so not detached from what they see around them. So always making the connections, one thing could be start with an example from something that you saw on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram or in any other place that you know that your students visit, you know, start with that and make the connection to what you want to teach. Because sometimes it's worth wasting a bit of our time with these things that we think they are trivial, but actually they will grab your students' attention. Another way is to involve them in projects and problem solving. They tend to be very excited when you put a problem, interesting problem that they need to find a solution. So you could try to present your materials as well like that, as a challenge rather than something that, it's so square that students don't feel there's space for their creative problem solving. So allow them to explore that. That would be my, at least this is what I've been finding in research, and also what I find that it works well with with students. Just a final comment on that question. I also think it's important to talk and listen to your students. So when something is not working, address that. Talk with your students. Is there any other question?
Thank you so much, Tanya. And I think we have very positive feedback, and indeed, what you say resonates with many of our teachers here. So thank you so much. Just to let you know, all of you participants, we will share the recording and the slides with all the information. So don't worry. You will be asked in a couple of days to evaluate this session. So thank you, Tanya. I would like in this note to close the session, and thank you very much for sharing this valuable information with us. And thank you all, dear Twinners, for participating.
Thank you so much, Alexandra, and talk to you soon. I hope you have all a wonderful day. You have my email if you want to send me an email with other questions that will come. I don't know, if something comes up and you would like to talk to me, just send me an email and I will be happy to reply to your email. Okay? Thank you, and stay safe. Take care.